One of the most startling statistics is that over 60% of children and young people in the youth justice system have significant speech, language and communication needs. In the typical population, that's only around 10%.
The legal system requires that you are able to tell your own side of the story. Now, if you have trouble putting your thoughts in order, finding the right words, or even understanding questions, you're going to struggle to start off with the police, let alone when you get into court.
To be truthful, I couldn't understand them. They talk so fast. They were jumping up and down saying things. I gave up listening.
I was in a Crown Court case as an intermediary with a young person and listened to the police tapes where he was questioned by the police, and he didn't know the days of the week and he got mixed up between Saturday and Sunday.
Quite a few court and justice based words that I have in an assessment that I ask the young people, what do these words mean? Words like consequences, words like pre-trial review, words like order, just simple words like sentence, words like guilty, reparation, and these words often, in the main, are not understood by the young person. One of the areas that we've identified is that young offenders often struggle with what we call verbally mediated interventions. And what that means really is that most work that youth offender teams do is based on the spoken word, and we need to find ways of enhancing their ability to understand the spoken word, and that can be with using objects, pictures, symbols, line drawings, in fact anything that will help them and improve their ability to understand the work that the offending teams are trying to do.
Another strategy is that people can use drawings. And it doesn't only need to be amazing drawings or works of art, little stick men, and this can help with breaking down concepts that are quite hard to explain in words. So for example, the concept of an offence, or the concept of guilty or not guilty. These can be really simply drawn out with a stick man, and then you have the magistrates representing the court, what it means to be guilty and not guilty.
I think when we're considering the needs of young people in the youth justice system, it is absolutely essential that staff that are working with them have a true understanding of how these needs affect the young people and the complexity and depth of these difficulties. We know from a study by the Audit Commission back in 2004 that there are significant costs related to a young person's needs not being addressed at an appropriate time. So for instance, the case study of James identified a young person with special educational needs and communication needs, and the total cost to the public purse was £153,687 as he escalated through the system and ended up serving 2 custodial sentences. The Audit Commission identified that had that support been put in place at the earliest possible stage, then this cost would have been reduced by £140,000. Having then had the discussions with John Burko, recognising the key role that speech and language therapists could play, I then proposed to the Association of Yacht Managers that we create the role of a speech and language lead, and then set about networking with a number of key organisations, particularly the Communication Trust, the Royal College of Speech and Language, the Prison Reform Trust and Centre for Mental Health, and Professor Karen Bryan, in terms of looking at how we networked and tried to raise consciousness on a more national basis rather than just in individual localities raising the issues. In a study looking at young people attending a youth offending team, 52% had special educational needs and 66% had literacy problems. In terms of the economic cost, we know that if we can do that, we can make a huge saving to the public purse. The Audit Commission identified that if we could turn away 1 in 10 of those who end up in custody, it would actually be a saving of £100 million a year.
Some of the documents can be quite complicated, but the young people have to actually read, take in and understand and sign to say that they're going to follow rules or whatever. So what we try and do is simplify the language so that it's easier for them to understand, and so that there's less words on a page, and also use images to give visual references and perhaps help the young person to join up and figure out what is being said in the forms.
That's my sort of hell, filling in forms. It sends my temper through the roof, and if I just can't fill it in, it does my head in.
The magistrates are volunteers from a range of different backgrounds who are trained extensively in judicial procedures and have some training in communication skills.
I didn't know what was going on. There was no one there to explain things to you. They tell you to read things in court. You just can't help.
You're charged with the possession of a bladed article. Basically, you were carrying a knife.
I didn't like it. It shocked me. The judge asked me if I understood, and I said yes, even though I didn't. I couldn't hear anything. My legs turned jelly, and my mum collapsed.
So recently I had an opportunity through the Youth Justice Board to attend a half-day workshop on speech and language needs, which was absolutely fascinating. And I found shocking that 60% of youths that appear in the court have some form of speech and language need, and I didn't previously know that. What I think would help would be specific speech and language training within the youth training programme and chairman training programmes.
One of the big challenges has been over the last, best part of 10 years really, is getting people aware that intermediaries exist and what they can do.
The solicitor tried to talk to me, but used big words. I found it difficult to understand. The solicitor came and spoke to me in the cell. When she left, I thought, what was that all about?
In practice, what an intermediary means is that there's somebody there for the witness to help them communicate their answers to police officers, say at the investigation stage, or their answers to the judge or counsel in court. But equally important is the role that the intermediary has in advising the police and the lawyers and the judge in how best to put their questions to the witness.
Sometimes I don't understand, and sometimes my communication comes out all aggressive when I don't mean it.
As far as the future is concerned, I think what we need to do is continue to raise awareness, and we have to also be aware that most people, when they hear the term young offender, don't see a child. And what I'm saying is all young offenders, first and foremost, are children, and we all have a duty of care to improve their abilities and to try and keep them out of the criminal justice system, and that responsibility falls on anybody really who has any contact with those young people.